So I'm working on exploring the Eightfold Noble Path. And so in the last two talks, I've talked about right view and right intention. So we're up to right speech, which is the first of the three actions, or right speech, right action, and right livelihood, that form the basis of the higher training in ethical conduct. So before getting into right speech, I just wanted to explore the idea of ethical conduct because I found it quite interesting. And so I wanted to look at it in terms of distinguishing it from perhaps a Western idea of morality, where there might be an implication of obligation to act in a certain way, or an idea of obedience, particularly within at least a Christian framework that I was raised in terms of obeying the rules or the conduct dictated by a higher power. Whereas in contrast, within the Buddhist worldview, ethics can be seen as a way to live in harmony with others. I found that just this phrasing is really beautiful in terms of we try to abandon things that disturb others, and then we try and adopt things that bring peace and harmony. So it's not just playing nice, it's not abiding by some moral rules that a higher power has handed down. It's very much the stop being a jerk principle that Venerable has mentioned again and again, which I'm warming to. And Bhikkhu Bodhi, whose booklet that I'm reading on this topic, takes us back to the Pali, where we can look at the word shila, which we translate as ethics. But there's another related word that he brings called samadhana, which means harmony or coordination. And so he talks about how our observance of ethics or shila brings harmony at various levels: a social level, psychological level, karmic level, and a contemplative level. And so at the social level, we can see that by keeping ethics or shila, that it brings harmonious interpersonal relationships. That's quite obvious. And he phrases it in that it wells together a mass of differently constituted members of society, all with their own private interests and goals. But through keeping ethics, we can come together in a cohesive social unit where, if not completely eradicated, then conflict is at least drastically reduced. And then on a psychological level, if we keep ethics, if we practice shila, then it brings us harmony in the mind, in that it protects us from the burden of guilt of doing things that we regret. And when I read this, it really brought to mind the idea that Venerable has mentioned, that, or her speculation, that when we age and we start to stoop, it's from that burden of regret and guilt of things that we've done in the past. So a way to prevent this stoop, both physically and inwardly, can be through the practice of ethics. And in terms of harmony at a karmic level, it's in terms of we create the causes of the future that we wish to experience. So we engage in right action, ethical conduct that will bring the causes of happiness and not the causes of suffering that we don't wish to experience. And I found that interesting with the fourth level, the contemplative harmony that he talks about, in that through ethical conduct we establish the preliminary purification of mind. So that's the foundation that we can then practice concentration or wisdom on top of that we need to practice this ethics first, because before we can engage in concentration and wisdom, we need to do this preliminary mental purification through ethics. So we can see here that there's two levels of benefit. There's a social level where we stop ourselves from engaging in harmful actions between ourselves and impacting society at large, but also the personal benefit of mental ease, mental purification. And Bhikkhu Bodhi phrases this as preventing the defilements from dictating to us what lines of conduct we should follow. So ethics is freedom from being under the dictatorship of the afflictions. It's quite a beautiful image, something to sit with. And within the Mahayana framework, when Venerable was talking about this, she emphasized that ethics is actually the groundwork that we must have in terms to, so that we can be able to benefit others. Because if we don't hold ethical conduct, then others just won't trust us. And if people don't trust us, then how are we going to be able to benefit them? And within the context of right speech, she directed us to look inside and see, like, who do we listen to? Someone, whether they're close to us or whether they're not close to us, they can have great advice. They can give us all sorts of advice and counsel. But if we don't trust them, we don't pay any attention. It's just in one ear, out the next. Whereas to really take in someone's advice or their counsel or their guidance, we need to trust them. We need to have some faith that they're going to be acting in accord with our best interests, that they do practice ethics in right speech. So, looking at the framework of wrong speech to be abandoned and right speech to be adopted, this goes back to what we know from the 10 destructive actions in terms of we seek to abandon lying and adopt truthful speech. We seek to abandon divisive or slanderous speech and adopt speech that promotes harmony and friendship. We seek to abandon harsh speech and adopt speech that is gentle, loving, kind. And we seek to abandon idle chatter or frivolous speech and rather seek to adopt speech that is to the point and is about meaningful topics. And so there's another framework that we can look at in terms of right speech as well that I thought I'd more focus on now, which some of us mention when we do the purification of speech in the morning, speech that is truthful, useful, timely, and kind. And so I came across the sutra that this comes from. It is listed as 5, but it's in the 4 we subsume 2 motivations together. So in the Vacha Sutta, the Buddha said, "Monks, a statement endowed with 5 factors is well-spoken, not ill-spoken. It is blameless and unfaulted by knowledgeable people." Which 5? It is spoken at the right time. It is spoken in truth. It is spoken affectionately. It is spoken beneficially. And it is spoken with a mind of goodwill. A statement endowed with these 5 factors is well-spoken, not ill-spoken. It is blameless and unfaulted by knowledgeable people. So as I said, these 5 can be subsumed down to 4 in terms of speech that is truthful, useful or beneficial, timely, and spoken with a kind and compassionate motivation. And in a talk that Venerable gave in DFF in the early 1990s, she broke down these 4 in a really nice way, so I thought to share them. And so when we often think of truth, we think of just saying the facts as best as we know them, but it goes much beyond that. It's using the truth not to harm others, telling the truth in an appropriate way. So we don't necessarily have to give all the details about something, but just give enough information that a person can bear at that time that will benefit them. And from Bhikkhu Bodhi relates a story from one of the suttas where the Buddha was talking to his young son, Rahula, where he emphasized the importance of truthfulness, specifically within the framework of living a life of spiritual practice in terms of how it actually affects our progress along the path. And so one day the Buddha came to Rahula and pointed to a bowl with a little water in it. And he asked Rahula, "Do you see this little bit of water left in this bowl?" Rahula answered, "Yes, sir." So little, Rahula, is the spiritual achievement of one who is not afraid to speak a deliberate lie. And then the Buddha threw away the water. And he put down the bowl and he said, "See, Rahula, do you see how the water has been discarded? In the same way, one who tells a deliberate lie discards whatever spiritual achievements he has made." And then again he asked, "Do you see this bowl is now empty? In the same way, one who has no shame in speaking lies is empty of spiritual achievement." And then the Buddha turned the bowl upside down and said, "Do you see, Rahula, how this bowl has been turned upside down? In the same way, one who tells a deliberate lie turns his spiritual achievements upside down and becomes incapable of progress." So therefore, the Buddha concluded one should not speak a deliberate lie, even in jest. I found this really powerful and beautiful, the visual image from my mind. In terms of speech being useful, we can think of it in 2 ways. One is long-term. for the long-term goal, and that is to share their Dharma. So it's not necessarily teaching others, but just using our speech to share our spiritual practice and experiences. And we can do this in an informal conversation, the way that we facilitate safe courses, or in any way that we can draw on our own practice and share how to live in harmony, be of benefit, and refrain from harming others. And then the day-to-day level is the other aspect, just using our speech to avoid conflicts, to help soothe conflicts, and just giving up slandering, backbiting, blaming others, and idle talk. Then there's right time, which I think I mentioned before is being a practice of mine that I've been working on since coming here, in terms of having consideration for others when we choose to engage with them. It's like being aware of our own inner world, like how are we speaking, why are we speaking, is it really as urgent as I feel it is? And also paying attention to the person, the vessel that's going to be receiving our words. Where are they? Are they busy? Are they tied up? Are they anxious? It's a dynamic relationship we're entering into, and our words have a really powerful effect. So to really see how we can work with our timeliness. And then a speech motivated by compassion and kindness. So again, the importance of why we're wanting to speak. An important point of this is, Venerable mentioned, is knowing when to shut up until we can actually work on a motivation and shift it to a beneficial one. So, if our mind is just raging with afflictions, now is not the time to speak. To work with our minds first. And so we work on our own speech, seeking to adopt what is right and abandon what is harmful. But this also includes how we work with any speech that comes to us, seeking to meet it in a skillful way. And so the Buddha addresses this in his simile of the Saw Sutta, which I thought to close with. So he says, monks, there are 5 aspects of speech with which others may address you: timely or untimely, true or false, affectionate or harsh, beneficial or unbeneficial, with a mind of goodwill or with inner hate. Others may address you in a timely way or an untimely way. They may address you with what is true or what is false. They may address you in an affectionate way or a harsh way. They may address you in a beneficial way or an unbeneficial way. They may address you with a mind of goodwill or with inner hate. In any event, you should train yourself. Our minds will be unaffected and we will say no evil words. We will remain sympathetic to that person's welfare, with a mind of goodwill, with a mind with no inner hate. We will keep pervading him with an awareness imbued with goodwill, and beginning with him, we will keep pervading the all-encompassing world with an awareness imbued with goodwill. Abundant, enlarged, immeasurable, free from hostility, free from ill will. That is how you should train yourselves. Maybe do it.